Live long and prosper, everyone. I'm Captain Foley.
And I am Commander Goggins.
I think you gotta do it this way to be disrespectful, not this way.
That's being respectful, though.
Oh,
Um,
oh,
um,
you're
um,
being New Age.
yeah. That's.
Gotcha.
And speaking of New Age, what a beautiful. Wow, we are in a New Age, Stuart. We learn new information, and this is kind of a biggie.
One of the major players in all of Star Trek history, right from the founding of the Federation. Even before that, just getting Earth off the ground as far as out into space doing its thing. The Vulcans. Vulcan is no longer Vulcan. Vulcan is now Navarre. And we just want to talk about that for a little bit.
Now, it is better than it being blown up by J.J. Abrams, Alex Kurtzman, and Robert Orsi. So it's gone, but not gone. I mean, it's definitely an unusual thing. I mean, I love what Picard, Discovery, as in 3 seasons. And I've done stuff that we wouldn't, as fans, do, with varying degrees of, okay, I see why, though. And for me, as long as there's a reason to some extent, although obviously we know this is a future. You know, the fact that Endgame happens shows you can change a timeline. And Michael Burnham's mum in season 2, she changes the future at least 200 times, clearly showing that anyone. So this is a future. You wouldn't have to do much to change this from being the future. Just as a slight clarification, a future showrunner can easily say, well, we're just going to change one thing. Oh no, that's now not the future. Just saying. But what did you think then, having seen this and reacting? And is it a death knell?
No, I mean, I thought it was appropriate, considering it's so far later and the reunification with Vulcan has happened. I think that was a great tie-in to change the name of the planet to represent both people together again. Because the name Navarre does mean duality, and two parts becoming whole again is the actual definition for in Vulcan. So I think it was very appropriate. And as far as planet names go, it's not bad. Navarre sounds good, rolls off the tongue. Navarre, the planet formerly known as Vulcan, we'll call it that. You know, it's like Prince with his little symbol that he had for a while. I think it was very appropriate considering the circumstances, and they were separated for so long, and then to bring them together to have it still be called Vulcan, I could see the Romulans being very upset with that fact. So the renaming of it, I think, felt very appropriate.
It's a positive thing, as weird as that sounds. It isn't just we left the Federation and wanted to make our own way. We changed our name because hashtag, YOLO. It was a direct response to this is a commitment to our, a race that left us in old ships, thousands of years ago, which is not that long in the grand scheme. Only several thousand years. And then after their planet and solar system got blowed up, and then, retconned from JJ from being, their entire part of the quadrant to just their solar system, so that, and we still, very much say their empire was absolutely fine. They had warning, they left the planet, none of the leaders died on the planet, except whatever, they don't care, whatever. But if you assume that they never quite got back to top tier, then this sense of, can we go? I mean, another good example actually is the Sona and the Baku. All they needed was a nudge, and to get rid of the one guy that was the biggest split. Going home often can be, the healing that you need. So then wanted to go home, it wasn't, even if that was in the 2700s, the name change wasn't for a long time after that. So it was a political thing a long way down the line, but they were saying, this is mostly working, but I think it was more rather than, hey, come to Vulcan, now we're going to call it something else. It was more a case of, okay, we've had this for 150 years, it's working mostly. I think now is a time to show that we are no longer the Vulcans and the Romulans on one planet, we are the Navarians, and then subdivide obviously to Vulcan and Romulans, but you're a subject of Navarre, you're not just a Vulcan, not just a Romulan.
Well, we're not sure exactly when the name change occurred either, or when unification happened again. It could be that the name change to the Navarre was literally 100 years ago when they left the Federation. To differentiate themselves and kind of cut those ties. We're no longer Vulcan. We've had issues with this name thing because the Romulans are, not on board with it being called Vulcan still. So we'll just solve all the problems in one fell swoop. We'll leave the Federation because of the SB-19 thing, and we'll also change the name of the planet just so it's not confusing.
Well, I mean, it is confusing though, because you got to say, like I said, Navarre formerly known as Vulcan. It is more confusing, but if you're leaving that organization, because obviously Romans living on Vulcan, you got to disconnect. But now you have Romans and Vulcans living on Navarre. There's now, you're equal in that,
Mm-hmm.
And since they're all from there originally, it's not as if the Romans are a sub of evolution, but they are from Vulcan, so it kind of brings it all back around.
And to make it even more different, they even decided to they pulled in some moons, so now Navarre has moons because Vulcan has no moon, according to Spock, until it does.
Yeah, I have no. That annoys me that people keep saying that. They're quoting TOS. TOS is the most.
It's funny though.
I know, but I see something being really serious. Like TOS is the most retconnable one because they were saying things offhand. In TMP, it had moons. End of story. Like the first thing Gene did was give it moons. So that Enterprise I think had moons. It doesn't. It has moons except when it doesn't. It doesn't except when it does. But if it has moons more times than not, then it has moons.
Spock was just being annoyed with Uhura, I think, and just like, Vulcan has no moon. Even though it would be common knowledge about Vulcan having moons, I think. We're getting off topic.
Well, I mean, even though it was a different era, Mariner was like, I've been to 6 planets. I've been to 3 planets. Earth and Vulcan. Oh, they don't count. So everyone's been to Vulcan. So yeah, as you'd fly in, you'd see the moons or no moons. I was in that era. But I wasn't, I think some people may have been offended by this, but for me, it's such a symbolic, like it means nothing but positivity, give or take, and I appreciate that. It backs up Spock's legacy. It backs up the legacy of positivity. It helps improve Picard, Star Trek Picard, because it shows you that even with all this crap that those writers gave, they ended up being fine together.
Yeah. And I want to point out, too, that a lot of people are confused. They think that Vulcan should be destroyed. That's only in the Kelvin universe. I just want to clarify that for all the people out there that keep bringing that up, which annoys me to no end. It's not destroyed. The other thing I want to bring up about Navarre is it seems like a little bit of a different planet, though. I was just kind of feeding back on the thing I was just talking about. It doesn't appear to be all as red and desert-like. It seems like there's been some terraforming going on, which could be to accommodate the Romulans because their planet was kind of lush on Romulus.
It was very green in the Nemesis. It was like, bright green.
So they weren't used to the dry, arid climate probably of Vulcan. So it looks like there was some terraforming going on because if you look at it in the view screen and just in that show, in that shot, it very much has a green-blue hue to it. There is still some red.
I wouldn't go that far, but I would definitely say it was still a red planet, but with a bit more blue. But
I can see the green and blue in it, and yeah. Anyway, it seems like there's been some changes gone on there. So
and it's people said similar to what you said, but you said it way more logically. Vulcans could have terraformed their planet 2,000 years ago. That's how they want it, as in before. The Vulcan people didn't need a green blue planet. They wanted the Aran planet. That's how, I don't know why, but that's their planet. So, you know what I mean? People say, they've terraformed it because they finally could. No, they always could. But the Romans come in, they had to then change their... I like that. It makes sense because it is a completely different style planet. And if if a Vulcan wants a garden, it's like, well, rock garden. So yeah, I mean, I could see, but then not the problem with that though is that as a separation, kind of like, ghetto zones, it's like, we're going to give you this continent. Now it's green. And that's the Romulan continent. So you'd kind of need to maybe change the entire planet to some extent, make it, the fauna a bit more strong. But then, this Vulcan's planet, and how would 12 billion Vulcans feel about suddenly losing their original... it's a difficult question. You kind of lose either way, because places aren't designed to put two peoples together. Like that's not with radically different cultures, etc.
Yeah, if you subdivide the planet, you cause issues. But it looks like there were still issues because you had the Vulcan purists, you had the Romulans, and then you had the Vulcan, whatever she was called, sect, where they try to ride that middle line between both. So it already seems like there's that division there. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of what's going on. Again, we didn't really get too much into it in that episode. It'd be interesting to find out. But something that's not going to happen overnight. And I know it's been 900 years, so it hasn't been overnight, but no idea when the unification happened, and we just not quite. The Romulans were still very adamant that if the Vulcans aren't going to help, the Romulans will, which is a very Romulan attitude to have.
Although I think the balance was quite special there, because you do get, at least I got the sense, it was, day to day everyone's fine. Everyone's been living together for 50, 80 years. Everyone's kids lives together. There's no sense of whatever. There's obviously more people that want to live together. That's the duo people who just have, half the planet's just completely integrated, and then there's just some Vulcans, just some Romulans, etc. But obviously this is a very high octane meeting in terms of we're being forced to give the thing that I was gonna make a real world comparison, but I'd have to use a massively contentious one, divided one, so I'm not even going to go there. But it was as if you pulling one of those political issues the entire day, having three leaders from three different continents come, and of course there's going to be a slight more tension. So I think for the most part everyone's fine, but obviously you've got, as we've found doing a YouTube channel, the more people that watch your content, the more opinions either side of the hard end of the spectrum. You get really crazy people that throw out things that don't make any sense. You get people that are super fanatical because there's more people. So obviously you're going to have a few people and several trillion that may whatever. So I got the sense for the most part they're fine. They've been fine for hundreds of years. But that's why they probably did a good issue with the SP thing. Like, this may reignite the investigation on the burn and everyone, because how are you going to deal with potentially breaking the universe? A Romulan and a Vulcan will deal with it very differently, and how they disagree could be the one thing you need. So Michael said, no, we're not going to. So I thought that for all it was, there's contextual reasons for everything in the scenes, which is why I prefer this season drastically. It's just better written. They've understood it better. It's not just because, like destroying Vulcan in 09, there was no reason. It was not well thought out. It was not logical, makes sense. So you can't justify, and obviously its moon was Vega 9 across the quadrant, nonsensical.
Yeah, Delta Vega, yeah. Yeah, the thing that has me concerned, though, is if there is issues going on with Vulcan and Romulans, I can see Michael Burnham being the one that is assigned to put them together, because she's dealt with emotions because she's human, so she understands the Romulan side, and she understands the Vulcan stoicism because she was raised by Vulcan, by Sarek. And, being human and Vulcan basically trained and raised, I could see her being that person that breaks up the fighting, if there is any, on Navarre. And so her brother unified them. She solves their problems. I could see that, unfortunately, being a thing that happens in Discovery. And again, for better or worse, that's kind of the direction I think they would go with that character.
Well, I mean, it's certainly an option. Although I don't think we're gonna revisit this season at all. I mean,
probably not this season, but I can see it being a thing maybe.
Yeah, well, it's a setup for a potential, but payoff for multiple. I mean, also we look for multiple seasons now. It's gone so much higher quality. But definitely not this season. Although next season maybe. But let's not make her another Messiah figure. Let's not give her all power. Maybe she can light one fire, but it's the people of this planet that know what's going on. I mean, she knows nothing about anything. I mean, she didn't even know the Romans were Vulcans. She is so ill-equipped. She could study, fine, sure. But, she's like a caveman coming in and saying, hello, let's not fight. It's like, yeah.
But
and
it's
considering
Michael Burnham, though. They'll make it so that she's important.
Yeah, well, she was important enough, and she served that purpose. But also remember, they have had time travel. They had hundreds of years of time travel, or dozens of years. So I'm sure Vulcans went back to proto-Vulcan to meet old Romulans and say hey and see what the problems were. Old, just because you're from the past doesn't give you necessarily great quality. And her being Michael Burnham and is good, but only goes so far because she's clearly a failed Vulcan hybrid, which is good for the Romans, I guess. But and she, I guess the records on her were deleted. Otherwise, her service record is awful. So she shouldn't be a respected officer.
That's true.
So she's just kind of like, oh my god, she's here.
There's been a vague discussion just about the Navarre thing, changing the name, and just the whole situation there. So if you guys have anything to contribute, please feel free to throw that in the comments section. Have a discussion down there amongst yourselves, and hit if you like the color red because you like Vulcan, hit that subscribe button. Well, actually, that gets rid of the red, because if it's red right now, there's a problem. That means you haven't subscribed. So terraform that button to make it less red, and hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the like, thumbs up, and the notification
Don't likes
bell
go
icon.
blue if you click them?
They do, yes.
So if you want even more water on top, if you like a Class M, click the like button to get that blue.
Yeah. And don't forget to hit notify all, because that lets Starfleet know what's going on. And there you go. See, we tied it all together. But we have lots of lives and great discussions like this all the time. And if you want to be a part of it in real time, to have your voice heard, a great way to do that is to jump into the lives and just hang out with us and super chat if you're able to, and support the channel.
And speaking of those amazing super chats, you can super chat. I mean, it's the most direct segue I could have possibly done, or you could have possibly done. Yeah, they're the lives we love because you talk directly. The super chats do fund the channel. As you guys know, the actual ad revenue non-existent, and that's been going down for years. But your super chats and your donations via PayPal, Patreon, and join the channel, they absolutely make up the difference and allow us to be confident to keep doing this. And you see how much content we make during the new shows. It is a ton, and they're all free because a few of you do support. So if you want to be one of those few, absolutely please do. For $5 a month, it isn't very much, but if 10 of you, 100 of you do, mounts up real quick. And we don't look for a lot, we just look for enough to pay the rent, etc., etc.
That's right. So, until next time, when we'll come together and unify, I'm Captain Foley.
And I am Commander Kungs. Bye, guys.